You're going to put it on.
Okay, questions for Mr. Attanasio?
And support our sponsor, Gatorade.
We'll start with Tyler
No
on the
questions.
right, third
Oh,
row.
Tyler, hello.
Mark, how are you?
If I'm not good today, I'm not good.
Right. You've had a lot of different playoff teams in your run here as Brewers owner. What distinguishes this one in your mind?
Well, a number of things come to mind. Starting with youthful energy, and that spirit. This team has had more, and we've had some really good teams, but I don't know that we've had any team with this amount of energy, and this amount of players pitching in. Kind of there's an expression in, I guess, all sports, especially baseball, when it comes down to crunch time, all hands on deck. So we've had all hands on deck all year. 17 starting pitchers, 12 guys who had saves this year, and Pat Murphy's focus on win tonight got us 93 wins and home field in the wild card round. Pretty great.
We'll go to the top row, toward the left.
Doug Russell with 97.3 The Game in Milwaukee.
I don't think the mic's on that well.
Try
That's
that.
how we let you know that we don't really want to hear from you.
Let's try flipping the switch on that.
The ratings say the same.
I think we're good.
Doug Russell from 97.3 The Game in Milwaukee. I've asked you this a couple of times now that the season is over. I don't know if you have a chance, or the regular season is over, I should say, to look back on the last 12 months, some difficult decisions made at the end of last year. The trade of Corbin, the managerial change. Do you feel a sense of vindication, satisfaction? What when you look at the 2024 season in the last 12 months, looking ahead to the playoffs, how do you kind of process all of that?
Our team had a number of, an organization, number of challenges this year. Change is something that's present in all sports. Maybe it was our turn to have a lot of changes thrown at us at once. And opportunities, right? So, it was a real challenge to decide whether or not to trade Corbin Burns, but the opportunity to get, Joey Ortiz and DL Hall, is the other side of that. We had a number of other opportunities this offseason we didn't take. We had opportunities to trade Willy Adames. We fortunately did not, go forward on that. All of our better players were asked for, several of whom are in the lineup today. And so I think, we, as an organization, surmounted those. And then this is more in reflection than at the moment, but we really thought about people and, importantly, our entire coaching staff, even though Craig was the winningest manager in our history and obviously, extremely talented, we decided to go with our people and trust our people. And I'm very gratified by that because Pat and the whole coaching staff, there's a whole coaching staff behind him that has been here and they've been here for a long time. And I'm very proud of the job they did.
Second row to the right.
You mentioned Willie Adames. Obviously, he's certainly raised his stock with the way he's played this year. Just what has he meant to this organization from the last few years, and what's your confidence level about him being here beyond this year?
So he's, from the day he got here, he brought, I talked about energy, he brought an infectious energy and, teammate first and leading by example. And he wanted to play 162 games this year. It got to the point when we clinched that he really needed a day off, probably for a month. So he took one day off. That sends a great example to all these young players. And in particular, bringing Jackson Churio to the major leagues at a very early age. I think some of Jackson's success obviously starts with who he is and his performance, but having Willie and by the way, Freddie Peralta and William Contreras as role models definitely helped him. So it starts with that. He's one of the greatest shortstops, he and Robin Yount in our history, and he'll always be part of us. The challenge, the great news for Willie and his family is, I think the free agent contract's going to be, very valuable for him and quite high, and we'll do what we can do to stretch, but others have bigger pocketbooks, and we'll see what happens.
Same row toward the middle, Adam?
Mark, after seeing Sal Frelick go down the other day, what do you think about him being on the roster and in the lineup tonight?
Well, I just heard walking in that Murph said that he was in the lineup, and look, I saw Sal 2 days ago when he was sort of not walking great, saying, I'm going to do it. And that's, the same guy. I was in Yankee Stadium last year. He and Joey Weimer, and you know this, Adam, collided. Joey Weimer's like 6'4", 220, full speed. They collide. One guy's 6'4", one guy's 5'8" or 5'9". They crashed into the Yankee Stadium scoreboard. They knock it out. And who comes up with the ball? Sal Frelick. Joey Weimer has like a bloody mouth. That's Sal Frelick. And so I'm not surprised he's playing today.
Go third row toward the middle.
Mark, I'm want to go back to leadership. You have some experience and expertise as a leader of people. What is it that Matt Arnold and Pat Murphy have shown you in the way they lead their groups this year, especially in the changeover from a year ago?
And so starting with Matt, Matt has been, the glue in our baseball ops group, and he has steadfastly advanced the careers of many, many people in his group. And I think, therefore, with him, it starts with the fact that his team knows he's looking out for them. And I'd say the same thing with Murph. I had an opportunity to see how Pat handled being the number 2 bench coach here for 9 years. And with Murph, it's always been about people. And that's been the case for both. What we learned about, not every number 2 can be a number 1. And we learned that Murph is a true number 1.
Third row toward the right.
Mark, obviously you guys are going up against the Mets, and David Stearns, someone that you helped bring into a really high role in this game. Just curious as to where your relationship is at with him now. Have you guys talked leading into this series at all?
So I guess now, me old school talk means, talking for this generation is texting. So we texted. I congratulated him after the game last night, after they clinched, and he wrote back when they were on their way here. We haven't, he met with a lot of our folks on Friday. I didn't get here till Saturday, so we mostly texted. And he's had, I know from seeing how hard Matt's been working these few days, it's an enormous job to just think who's going to go on, as you know, who's going to go on your roster, and depending on who the matchup is. So he's been pretty busy, but I'm sure I'll see him at some point during the series here.
Fourth
I'm
row.
very happy for the success he's had. He was very happy.
Fourth row toward the left.
Mark, getting back to Willie, as a competitor, which I don't think people realize how fiery you are when it comes to this stuff, is it frustrating that there are teams out there, the way the pay structure works in baseball, that you can't sometimes compete because you have the fans in town not understanding that, yet you want to be able to pay these money and retain these players?
Well, we have we have an extremely informed fan group, so I think they recognize there's some limitations on how we can put a roster together. But of course, when there's a player that you love, that can have some frustration that goes with it. The way we try to manage it is there's a sort of a traditional small market analytics model where after 3 years you start to look to trade players. We do the opposite. We try to figure out how many players we can keep here for their full time, starting back with Prince Fielder. And you can't, unfortunately, we haven't been able to keep everybody, but a lot of them. And felt really good to give Willie that standing ovation the other day when he walked off the field, knowing it could be his last regular season game with the team. And by the way, made sure I was in my seats down next to the dugout so I could stand and cheer for him as well. It's, we all know what we deal with, and I think if you give in to we're too small, we can't compete, we don't have the money, you've lost it. What I do like, there's been questions about the fact that our fans now expect more than just making the playoffs. I love that, because when I was first sitting in this seat in 2004, it was all about we had lost for, 11 seasons at that point. We hadn't been in the playoffs at that point for over 20 seasons, and, we had no expectancy. Now we have a high expectation, and I prefer that.
Go fourth row toward the right.
Mark, having worked with David Stearns and having him been here for as long as he was, you probably had a suspicion that you would be facing again with your team at some point. Does it surprise you that it happened so soon in his first job after this, coming back to, and you guys in the first round?
Yeah, it's a little, look, we know how formidable and how smart he is, so probably would have not preferred to face him, but we also know how formidable Francisco Lindor is, at the top of the lineup, and probably going to be, close to the MVP voting this year. So, that said, I'm really proud that David was able to, turn the Mets around in one season. And if you look at how he did it, he sort of did it the same way he did things here, with a lot of small moves that, any particular move you didn't even notice, but then in the aggregate made a real difference. Probably had more to do with the, who's the mascot, the McDonald's?
Grimace?
The Grimace, right. Probably should have, if we have a purple seat for the Grimace, probably have some sort of seat for Stearns.
I think somebody had to explain to David who Grimace was.
Well, obviously me too.
All right, we have time for maybe one or two more. We'll go to the last row on the left.
Kind of along the same lines, we can draw a line to the players that David Stearns acquired for the Brewers, but are there tendrils of David Stearns still in this organization, things he maybe put in motion that you're kind of seeing come to roost here over the last couple of years?
Well, sure. But again, the organization, starting with he hired Matt Arnold, right? So it starts with that. And, David, what you do as a best practice in all business, when someone's departing, you have it's called an exit interview. So I had an exit interview with David on the whole group, and in particular on Matt, and he was very positive on Matt, and you can see it, we haven't missed a step. And so sure, his fingerprints are, throughout Matt's group, but, Matt has certainly made it his group over the last couple of years.
Final question from Adam, second row.
Mark, we know you have a long history of loving the Yankees.
Yeah.
I've never asked you, how do you feel about the Mets?
Well, growing up as a sports fan in New York and as a Yankee fan, as it turned out, I really started to love the Yankees in the '64 series and was sure they'd be back. Now I was, 7 years old or something. And that was the start of the big decline. At the very same time, the amazing Mets, with Seaver and Kuzman and Tommy Agee and all those players. So I grew up as a New York sports fan, so it's, and by the way, part of me is very nervous about this, obviously, how good the Mets are, but, it's great to actually have the attention we have in this series because the Mets are playing, and I embrace that.
All right, thank you very much.
All right.